On Wednesday, I went and I saw House of Gucci, the new kind of crime drama by Ridley Scott, with a great cast: Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, Jared Leto. So I wasn't like super interested in this movie, but the trailers looked good. My family wanted to see it, so I went and saw it. And I have a decent amount of things to say about it. So this will be a full spoiler review of House of Gucci. So, same thing applies. Have seen it, you're free to watch. If you haven't seen it and you care about spoilers, come back later. Check it out after you've seen it. But I'm going to jump right into this review of the movie with the negatives. And there's one big negative I have with this movie, and it's just simply the fact that, like, I don't know, I feel like it feels more like a series of the greatest moments or the most important moment of the lives of the Guccis, and it doesn't really feel like it has, like, a very solid through line. Like, characters' motivations never seem very well developed. It's just like, oh, in one scene they love each other because that's what works best for this scene, but in the next scene they hate each other, and then suddenly she wants to kill him, and I never feel like that was all developed well enough. Like, character motivations and reasonings and how they change throughout the film, I never feel like there was ever proper development. Just there'll be one way in one scene and then a different way in the next scene. I feel like it's just because it's like it's a series of important moments and not really a solid through line of a story, if that makes sense. So it all could have been connected very better, because individual scenes, I'd say, were all really good. There was no individual scene that I point out and I say I dislike that. Each individual scene was enjoyable. But I feel like all in all, the story didn't necessarily flow very well in some areas. And that was also connected to some aspects where I feel like it didn't explain things to us enough, where kind of like sometimes it switched locations. Like about halfway through the film, they're like, okay, are you guys finally going to move to New York? And I was like, wait a minute, I thought they moved to New York like 3 scenes ago, or like 10 minutes ago. Or like times would switch, and like, that's another issue I have with the movie. The fact that like time goes so fast, and like you never feel like the passage of time is conveyed well enough. Like there's 3 examples in the movie where it actually says like, okay, here's the year of what's going on right now. And the way certain scenes flow, like it'll be like 5 years between 2 scenes, but they'll never really explain that. And it'll feel really janky at times when you realize like, wait a minute, oh, wait, I thought we were still in the early 80s. Now all of a sudden it's 1995. Like with the passage of time, I feel like that should have been elaborated on a little more, because it's just like time goes so quickly that it'll jump like half a decade, no one will tell you, and it makes it a little jankier. Also, with the switching of locations and like certain elements of the story and character motivations aren't really conveyed properly to the audience. It's just, my big issue with the movie is they don't really convey things to the audience well enough, such as locations and passage of time and characters' motivation. And there's not really a solid through line putting this all together. It just feels like a bunch of important moments put together in one movie and not one solid story. And that's the only thing I really had an issue with. And the only thing I was mixed on is the shifting of tone and how it's a lot lighter and more fun early in the movie, but it gets a lot darker very fast later in the movie. But even then, I feel like that still somewhat works, because it's a little janky, but it still somewhat works, because that's the point, everything was so great for them early on, but later on things got so much worse and worse and worse. So something I'm mixed on, but something, the more I think about it, the more I'm fine with the bit of a janky tone. But on to the positives. First off, the cast was just genuinely great. Of course, Lady Gaga and Adam Driver were so fantastic. Adam Driver is always fantastic. At first, their Italian accents felt a little off, but they felt a lot more natural as the movie went on. They did great with the romance scenes. It was kind of awkward early on. I kind of didn't like that at first, but I realized, okay, the awkwardness is kind of the point, which I liked. And at times when they were being romantic, it did feel pretty genuine. Lady Gaga did great in the scenes where she was kind of trying to be like very kind of sinister and a little bossy, and she did great in all of those moments. Adam Driver is, of course, phenomenal in the moments where he's trying to be sweet as a dad, but also the moments where he's kind of trying to be powerful. And as I said, I feel like his development of his character wasn't done very properly. And I know this is based off a true story, so that makes things a little weirder, but they could have focused a little more on the story part than the true aspects part. I mean, I know that doesn't work great for some movies, but like, they need to do a good balance of, these are characters that you're writing, and they need to be developed well, but they're also real people, so you need to get the facts right. They need to find a good balance, and at times I don't think they did that, but all the performances are great, regardless. Jared Leto stole the show. The makeup and prosthetics for him were great, and he was just really funny in some of the scenes he was in. He was the most dynamic, the most unique of all the characters, and I thought he worked really well in this movie, whether it's in more dramatic scenes or more humorous scenes, and you kind of felt bad for him at times, but you also kind of hated him at times, and it worked really well. Also, Jeremy Irons and Al Pacino were both pretty great. It's kind of these older members of the family. Jeremy Irons is more grumpy. Al Pacino is more energetic, and I liked both of them in this movie. Salma Hayek's in the movie. That's all I have to say about her. She's in the movie. She didn't really have much to do. It's kind of a weird inclusion, but oh well. Another thing I like about this movie, it's very stylish with the costumes and the music and the locations and the visuals. It has a very distinct feel to it at times, which I feel like works pretty appropriately for a movie about Gucci. But on a technical level, like, all of that works phenomenally with, like, them representing the time periods and the fact that these characters live in a much higher end society. That all worked really well, and just stylistically, this movie works great. And just one final positive I have to note, individual scenes all work really, really well for me, you know, whether it's trying to be funny or dramatic or just trying to represent the times and the romance well. Individual scenes, almost all of them work great for me. It's just, as I said, a poor character development and a not great through line of the narrative and conveying the passage of time kind of makes that a struggle for me. So overall, this movie is very entertaining in individual moments. It has a great, great cast. It has a great style. It's just, I feel like it didn't flow very well with character motivations and passage of time and everything. So it worked well as a movie, and it was entertaining. It just could have been a lot better. I'd give House of Gucci an 8 out of 10. Pretty solid. Could have been better, but I enjoyed it. Okay, so now that this review's done, probably next review is Encanto, maybe next weekend. We'll see. But I got plenty of good stuff coming the rest of November, and of course in December we got plenty of good videos, and I hope to see you then. Bye-bye.